What this man found in the forest was truly bizarre. A weirdly bald, tiny rabbit was hiding in one of the bushes. He couldn't make much sense of the animal's appearance, but when he brought the bunny to his local vet, he got this answer. This is definitely not a rabbit. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Lewis Charleston was walking through the forest near his house when all of this started. He and his 9 companion had walked this route several times before, but this particular hike would turn out to be quite different. They walked for about 30 minutes when Lewis's dog suddenly started barking. Lewis saw his dog circling a particular bush repeatedly in the distance. It was like he was trying to tell his owner something. Lewis ran over and inspected the spot where his dog sat, and that's when he saw it. Lewis spread some of the branches of the bushes and immediately figured out why his dog was acting erratic. There was an animal hiding beneath the dense leaves of this bush, but it was the weirdest creature Lewis had ever seen. What are you? The animal was extremely tiny, and what Lewis noticed the most was that it was pretty much hairless all over its body. The tiny creature squealed like it desperately needed attention or food. Maybe her parents died, or maybe she was abandoned for some reason. Lewis spoke to his dog sadly. Lewis couldn't go home and leave this helpless animal behind to suffer. So, in the end, he chose to bring it with him. Once home, Lewis placed the pink-bald creature on his kitchen counter. "What are you?" he uttered. Confusion riddled all over his face. It needed to regain strength, so Lewis searched for food for this weakened animal. There wasn't much, but a small bowl of milk might do the trick. At least, that was what Lewis thought. The animal, however, had other plans. It just put its front paws in the ceramic bowl without drinking anything. "I cannot help you like this," Lewis said, frustrated. He didn't know what the animal was or what it needed. Eventually, he called his local vet for help and an explanation. He discussed the situation and described the balding animal's appearance over the phone, and the vet seemed intrigued. "Could you come over? I want to look at the animal myself if that's okay with you," the vet said. Lewis agreed and drove to the veterinarian's office with the presumed baby rabbit in his passenger seat. Once there, the doctor got to work straight away. A quick inspection was done, and even though Lewis's conclusion that the infant was hungry was correct, other questions also arose within the doctor. The doctor injected the small animal with some much-needed fluids against dehydration and also proved a liquid form of substance. But when he did, his face seemed puzzled the entire time. Lewis looked at the vet's frown and stated that he believed it was a baby rabbit of some sort. "But it is the strangest one I've ever seen." The vet instantly put a halt to this hypothesis. "I get why you think that, but I can assure you this is definitely not a rabbit." This remark surprised Lewis, who at least thought he figured out the animal's species. "What is it then?" Lewis asked. The vet rolled his chair over to the nearest computer and showed the confused Lewis some pictures. With this information, he argued that this animal had no typical features a normal rabbit should have. It has larger ears and 4 legs, but that's it. When I ran my fingers over its belly and felt the organs, some also felt out of place. Lewis listened to every word carefully and hoped that a clear answer to what this animal was would come soon. But disappointment followed. The vet explained that he had no idea what this animal was. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, which frustrated him. He then told Lewis that he was just as eager to find out as he was. "So, I have a proposition for you. The animal seems harmless and seems to like you." Lewis agreed that the animal seemed fond of him as he stroked its bare back. "Perhaps you can take it home with you and nurture it for a while. Its determining features might appear if it regains some strength and grows a bit." Lewis couldn't argue with this logic and agreed to the proposal. Lewis drove home with the animal that day and started their journey of discovery, and it would be a strange one, with many weird surprises along the way. Their mission started great, though. The mysterious rabbit-like creature ate for the first time, and as far as Lewis could tell, it slept well. Lewis's dog always slept in a separate part of the house, so he could use the dog's old dog basket as a sleeping place for the hairless creature. All of these things seemed to go perfectly, and the small critter became more and more playful. But by day 3, things started to change. During that time, Lewis and the veterinarian were in constant communication. The vet was looking through old files and searching online for any kind of lead to find out what this animal was, while Lewis provided a live observation. On the third night, strange things started happening. The small animal got more and more familiar with Lewis's house and was already running from side to side during the daytime. But around 2 o'clock at night, the young man suddenly woke up from a loud noise that came from downstairs. Lewis sat straight in bed and felt his heart rate go up significantly. He pushed his bed cover aside and ran down the stairs to see what was going on. At first glance, nothing seemed amiss, but when Lewis made his way over to the back door of the house, he saw that it stood wide open. The confused man knew that he had closed it before bed, just like he always did, so seeing it open like that was strange. Lewis turned his head around the corner and saw that his metal trash cans had tumbled over. "That's probably the loud noise I heard," he said calmly. The garbage bags inside the trash cans were completely ripped open, covering his entire patio with trash. "Annoying squirrels," Lewis said, irritated, before turning around and locking the door properly this time. But when he re-entered the living room, he saw that the little bald animal had left his sleeping quarters. The little creature looked up, still with its squinted eyelids, and just sat there. Did she do it? No, that wasn't possible. The animal was still half blind and way too small. She couldn't have, right? But this thought wasn't as far off as Lewis thought at that time, because the next day, this happened. That next night, strange things again started happening. Lewis heard loud noises coming from the downstairs area once more, and when the confused homeowner got there this time, he found his house in a complete mess. There was junk everywhere, and Lewis noticed that his pantry had been plundered this time, and evidence was present all over his living room and kitchen. There were torn open food packages everywhere, and the innards of his ground coffee container were spilled all over the floor of his house. And this time, the culprit left a trail. Lewis saw that there were brown coffee footprints all over his floor. They acted like a stamp trail that ran all through his house, and some of them gathered around the sleeping area of his new bald attendee. Did you really do this? How could such an innocent-looking creature cause all this havoc? Lewis was perplexed. But the footprints did match that of the animal. Lewis called the veterinarian and shared everything he had learned up until this point. He spoke of the sharp contrast between the animal's appearance and the weird chaos she was causing. "I don't know what she is, but she's very active at night." It intrigued the vet, who asked Lewis to monitor this behavior closely. During the following weeks, Lewis watched the small animal like a hawk. He woke up every night to a mess in his house, and when that happened, he documented everything. Lewis also saw that the creature grew quite well. She wasn't just a tiny thing. He couldn't hold it in his hand anymore. The animal's weight and size quadrupled in a short time. The baldness she had when he found her began to disappear as darker fur slowly covered her body. She became more playful, and a bond formed between them. However, she remained active at night, often leaving behind teeth marks and chaos. To manage this, Lewis decided to keep her in his bedroom at night. With the door closed, he believed nothing could happen. But that very night, he was jolted awake by a loud bang downstairs. Confused, he looked over and saw the animal still in her basket. She looked back at him calmly. If she wasn't responsible for the noise, then who was? Lewis rushed downstairs and was met with a shocking sight. He froze in confusion, unable to process what was happening. His eyes were glued to the movement in the room. Then the phone rang. It was the vet calling oddly, in the middle of the night. When Lewis answered, the vet sounded excited. He had identified the mysterious animal. "It's a Chinese naked wombat," he explained. "They're extremely rare in this region, and they don't travel alone. Wombats usually live in tight-knit groups." Lewis, still watching the scene in front of him, confirmed that. There, scattered around his living room, were 6 fully grown wombats, playful, hungry, and completely at ease. The vet chuckled in surprise. Wombats were known to be confident, but this behavior was unusual. As they spoke, Lewis heard a noise upstairs. He had left his bedroom door open, and the half-furred wombat had slipped out. She ran downstairs and rejoined the others. That's when Lewis noticed something strange. One of the wombats padded into the kitchen and pushed aside a floorboard. Beneath it was a hole leading under the house. That's how they'd been entering all along. The mystery was finally solved. The bald animal he had found belonged to this wombat family, but owning one was illegal, and Lewis knew he couldn't keep her from her group. So he and the vet looked for a long-term solution. The vet made a call, and the next day they transported the wombats to a wildlife sanctuary about 30 minutes away. There, a woman welcomed them through the gate. Lewis introduced the animals to their new home. The sanctuary's lush, open space suited them well, but as Lewis stepped back, the young wombat squealed and resisted separation. Seeing this, the sanctuary owner offered a special arrangement. Lewis could visit weekly to ease the transition. It was unusual, but the bond they shared couldn't be ignored. Without hesitation, Lewis agreed. It was the perfect middle ground. He no longer had to deal with nightly destruction, and his wombat companion wouldn't feel abandoned. After about 6 months, the little bald infant had fully grown up to an adult-sized wombat. She was happy and playful and loved living in the sanctuary. Lewis was happy as well. He grew to be a very well-trained sanctuary staff member and looked forward to his weekly visits every time.